Hi everyone, in this video we're going to be covering 5D, which is factorising non-monic quadratic trinomials. So again, very long heading, but basically it just means we're going to be factorising quadratics where the coefficient of x squared is not 1. So let's have a quick look at these notes. So I know I haven't been given too many notes, just because factorising you really can only do by practicing. But with non-monic trinomials, sorry, I don't want you there. Back up. There's two methods you can use. So I thought I'll put both in, but also show you them. So this first method is called the cross method. All right, so when we're doing the cross method, basically, if we've got a quadratic in the form ax plus bx plus c, and a isn't equal to 1, so what this means here, a is not equal to 1, is that it's not a monic quadratic, okay, because we did that in 5c, all right, where the coefficient of x squared was 1. Now it's not 1. All right, so what we need to do is look at factors of a and c. All right, so a being the coefficient of x squared and c is your constant. So you can see in this example here, and I don't really like this diagram because they've listed all possible factors, but you can see on this side we've got factors of 4, which is the coefficient of x squared, and it's separated by that line there, and then factors of negative 15. Now, because it's a negative number, you've got a lot of factor pairs. Now, in the key ideas, we're using grouping. So I'll show you both the cross method and the grouping method. So what we're going to be doing with the grouping method is you've still got your quadratic in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. But first of all, we need to find two numbers that multiply to give a times c. So you take your value of a and your value of c and you multiply them together, and then you find a factor pair that give that product of a times c and add to give b. So again, I'll do an example of that. Actually, I'll talk you through this example. So if we've got 15x squared minus x minus 6, so your value of a times c, so a is 15 and c is negative 6, so that's what we've done here, is negative 90. So we're looking for factor pairs of negative 90. So you can go and list them all out, but basically we want a pair that add to give b. So the coefficient of x is b, so in this case it's negative 1. So we want factors of negative 90 that add to negative 1, and they are negative 10 and 9. Now this table is not separate. The only reason it's separated is because it was on two separate pages, but it does flow on. So we use these two numbers, the negative 10 and 9, to instead of writing negative x, we write negative 10x plus 9. So we haven't actually changed the form of the quadratic. We've just written it differently. And then we do factorising by grouping. So we did grouping in 5b. Okay, so when I do an example, I'll explain that in a little bit more detail. All right, so let's scroll up to 2a. Now, as I said, I think in the previous video, I'm not a huge fan of non-monic quadratics, only because sometimes I feel like there's so much thinking involved that I just use the quadratic formula. So I'll show you the quadratic formula at a later stage. The reason you do need to be still shown how to factorize these using these two methods is because you might prefer them. Okay, even just because I prefer the quadratic formula doesn't mean that you will. And the quadratic formula will actually take you longer. So factorizing using these two methods, won't work for every non-monic quadratic, okay, because once you start bringing in surds, it can complicate it. So yeah, quadratic formula works for everything. So that's why If it's in the too hard basket, I just go straight to the quadratic formula. Anyway, let's get started doing some non-monic quadratics. So exciting. All right, so we'll do the cross method first, and then I'll do the other method. Okay, so your cross method, we're looking at the coefficient of x squared and your constant. So we've got 3 and 3. So you'll start by just writing across, and we've got, I always write the x in, says she who says she never does this method, but I would write the x in, even though the x isn't in your textbook. All right, and why did I put a 3 there? That doesn't need to be a 3. It's got to be x. So basically what you want here is a factor pair of this, the first term. So 3x times 1x is 3x squared. All right, and then I've got 3 at the end. So again, I can have 3 and 1. What I want is when I'm going to multiply these and then add them together. So I've got 3x times 1 plus 1x times 3. And that's going to give me 3x plus 1x equals 4x. Now basically you want that to equal 10x, but it doesn't. All right, so then we've got to say, all right, got to try something else. So it's not 3 and 1. So let's switch them around and do 1 and 3. So 3x times 3 plus 1x times 1. So now we've got 9x plus 1x equals 10x. And you would kind of hope that would work because we've run out of options. All right, so now it is 1 and 3. Okay, so when we're factorizing, we're reading across the top. So we're going to have 3x plus 1 and x plus 3. So you can always check. Now, you probably won't have time to check, but if you do, you can just quickly do your FOIL. All right, so 3x times x is 3x squared. 3x times 3 is 9x. 1 times x is x, and 1 times 3 is 3. And I can see already that that is correct. All right, so this cross method, you wouldn't do all this. All right, you do a lot of thinking in your head. Okay, so even though we're just learning and we're doing a lot of working out, eventually it'll just become, like simplifying fractions. So when you learnt fractions in primary school or in year 7, you wrote all the multiples of a number when simplifying, or factors, whatever, or when you're getting equivalent fractions. But now you just do it in your head. So here, what I've just done in green, you wouldn't, sorry, what I meant in green, this part here, you would do that in your head. All right, so that's the cross method. Okay, so I don't think the cross method is that complicated. All right, the grouping method. So let's do a different question with the grouping method. All right, we'll do E. So we've got 2x squared minus 11x plus 5. All right, so the first step is to multiply A and C. Okay, so 2 times 5 equals 10. So we want factor pairs of 10. So two numbers, let's call them, I'll just leave space. So something times something equals 10, and something, plus something equals whatever the coefficient of x is, which is negative 11. All right, so we've got a positive number in 10 and a negative number in negative 11. So the two numbers here are going to have to be negative, and then these obviously the same. So negative 10 times negative 1 is positive 10. Negative 10 plus negative 1 is negative 11. So your two numbers are negative 10 and negative 1. Now you don't go ahead and do your x minus 10, x minus 1 like we did before. All right, so different working. What we do next is we keep the first term, 2x squared, and instead of writing negative 11x, we now write that as negative 10x minus 1x, or just x, plus 5. So instead of having the negative 11 in the middle, we're writing it as negative 10x minus x. They're equal, right? I haven't changed the value of that expression. I've just written it differently. So the reason I have written it differently, and I'm going to have to get rid of that because it's going to confuse us, is so we can do our grouping. So remember when we did our grouping back in 5B, we pair them up. Now if I have written that in a different order, I might have to rearrange it, but I'm just looking at it now and I kind of think it's going to work out. All right, I'm going to take out 2 as a common factor. Oh, sorry, 2x as a common factor. So then I'm left with x minus 5. Now, in my second pairing, remember that your common factor or your bracket has to be the same. All right, so I've got x minus 5 here, so x minus 5 here. So what I need to take out as a common factor is negative 1. Because negative 1 times x is negative x, and negative 1 times negative 5 is positive 5. All right, now I'm going to leave that as negative 1 because remember when we take out the common factor, x minus 5, we do the other two numbers in a second bracket and we can't forget that negative 1. So if we wrote it there, we're going to remember to write it here. So x minus 5 times 2x minus 1 is the factorized form of that non-monic quadratic. All right, let's do some more. Okay, so this is probably as hard as it's going to get when you're factorizing. And as I said, I really don't like these. Doesn't help, does it? I'm just thinking whether I should do another one from question 2. No, let's move on to question 3. All right, I can see also with question 3 that we're going to take out a common factor first, which is going to make it a lot easier for us. Oh, no, there's no common factor. I thought 3 was going to be a common factor, but 10 is not a common factor. All right, all good. So, again, personal choice. You use the cross method or you use the grouping method. This one here, if I was to do the quadratic formula with it, would be very hard because of that 27 there. So that would be actually, not impossible to do, but very hard to do. So I'd have no choice but to factorize using these two methods. All right, let's do the cross method again, just so you can decide which one is easier for you. So when we're doing the cross method, we're looking for factor pairs of 18x. So, I don't know. Let's do 9x and 2x. And then they also have to, we need factor pairs of 10. So I'm going to do 10 and 5. Oh gosh. I kind of feel like that's not going to get me anywhere. Only because I'm quickly doing that in my head. 9 times 5 is 45 and we want it to be 27. And even if I switch that, it's not going to work. So let's go back and choose a different pairing here. What did I do? 10 and 5. Oh my gosh. No wonder I'm going to get such a high number. 2. What did I have? 9 and 2. All right, let's put the 2 there and the 9 here. All right, because I knew having the 9 on the top, I was going to get 45. Not going to work. All right, so 2x times 5 is 10x. And 9x times 2 is 18x. All right, we want them to add together to give 27, and that's 28. So it's not going to be that one. Let's try a different, so you can just write not going to equal 27. X. All right, let's try a different pair. So I wonder how we'll go changing those two to be 6 and 3. So we've got 15x plus 18x. No, that doesn't equal 27 either. Just making sure I'm adding that. Oh no, what am I doing? Yes, it does. 12x. You know, it's quite late. Very tired. What am I doing? I'm going to make mistakes. Equals 27x. Awesome. Okay, so I did 6x times 2 is 12x, not 18x, what I had originally. All right, so we've got our numbers, and remember we go join these two pairs up. All right, so even though we checked by multiplying them, we're going to have in our first bracket the first line, so 3x and 2. Actually, instead of those arrows, I probably should put a plus. And 6x plus 5. All right, and again, you can check it. So 3x times 6x is 18x. 3x and 5 is 15. 2 and 6 is 27. 2 and 5 is 10. Awesome. All right, so that is my preferred method. But let's do the other one with another question. Let's do one from question 4, because in question 4 we are taking out a common factor. And we'll do h. So 12x squared minus 36x plus 27. So you want to take out the highest common factor, just because it's going to make it so much easier for you. So I know 4 goes into everything, and 9 doesn't. So 9 doesn't go into 12, so 3 is going to be our highest common factor. Then we've got 4x squared minus 12x plus 9. All right, so we're going to use the grouping method. So we're taking the value of A and C, so we multiply them. So 4 times 9 equals 36. And then we need a factor, so 2 numbers that multiply to give you 36 and 2 numbers that add to give you negative 12. All right, so gosh, what do we got? 18, no. 6 and 6. Oh my gosh. Negative 6 and negative 6. There we go. All right, so, you know, put a bit of thinking music in and you'll get it. So negative 6 times negative 6 is positive 36, and negative 6 plus negative 6 is negative 12. All right. God, this one's going to seem like it's a lot easier, this method. All right, so we keep the 3 out the front, and we write 4x squared. Now remember, instead of writing that middle term, that minus 12x, we're now going to rewrite that as negative 6x minus 6x plus 9. So value hasn't changed. We've just written it so we can do grouping. All right, so your grouping, remember we do this pair and this pair. So keep the 3 out the front. All right, so what is a common factor for 4x squared and negative 6x? So that's going to be 2x. And we're going to have another bracket. So then we're going to be left with 2x minus 3. Just do a quick check. Good. And then we've got, all right, so we know it's going to be 2x minus 3. That'll give us a hint. So that means we're going to have to take out a negative factor and negative 3. Now, this, all right, I've got to be careful with my brackets here, especially with that negative 3 there. That's fine. Okay, so we keep the 3. Oops. So your common factor for our grouping was 2x minus 3. And then our other 2 numbers make up our other bracket. So 2x Oh, we got 2x minus 3 and minus 3. Oh, there we go. Which is equal to 3 times 2x minus 3 squared. I actually did not expect that to come out like that. But that's good. You can do a quick check. So 4x, kind of don't believe it's happening. Negative, yeah, awesome. All right, so we've ended up with a 3 and a perfect square, which is pretty cool. All right, so non-monic quadratics, they are tricky. I strongly encourage you to, after doing those two methods, choose one that suits you. So either the cross method or the grouping. As I've said, I don't really use either. I always just use the quadratic formula unless it's quite obvious what the number, unless I quickly get it. Otherwise, I go straight to the quadratic formula. But please practice, choose a method and practice it, because moving into methods, it's probably easier to understand that method than to always just rely on the quadratic formula like I keep saying. All right, girls. Catch you later. Bye.